If you're new to esports, the concept of becoming washed may be a little newer to you. It's a term that's used across many disciplines but seems to be more prevalent in esports, likely because of how often players come and go. The demographic difference between an NFL team and a Valorant team are obvious. The Valorant team looks like what the NFL team would eat for protein between games. But why do we see older players in traditional sport and younger players dominate the esports scene? It's not just vibes or your joints getting rusty. Let's start with the obvious, reaction time. It's the go-to when explaining why the 8-year-olds are cracked at Fortnite. What's the science behind it? Well, according to Woods et al. In 2015, simple reaction time is clearly linked to age. By their understanding, you gain around 0.55 milliseconds per year on your reaction time as you get older. As you get older, you get slower. But reaction time matters even more when you're a pro since you play on LAN, where ping is pretty much 0 milliseconds, meaning gunfights can literally come down to nothing but raw reaction time. But they interestingly concluded that stimulus detection time didn't vary with age, and it stayed quite consistent throughout all ages. It was just the movement initiation time that varied greatly, meaning that just because you're older, it doesn't mean your brain is working any slower, it's just that your corticospinal excitability, essentially the efficacy of your corticospinal pathway, which is the main motor control system in your brain that sends signals to your muscles, is lower than your younger peers. They also found that the accuracy varied between ages, finding that younger subjects actually made more errors than older subjects. This is consistent with the suggestion that older subjects are generally more conservative. Maybe that's why Boaster is surprisingly good at holding it down with the op. It's also important to note that they found no significant differences in any attribute when it came to reaction time between men and women. So this, to me, suggests that if you're getting older, your chances aren't over in esports, but you might not be tapping heads like before. So in a game like Fortnite, which is so heavily based on reaction times since frames make the difference between shooting after a wall edit and fights are much more direct. Whereas in a game like Valorant, some people can find great success playing agents that slow the game down and allow for playmaking opportunities which aren't necessarily based on pure reaction times. So you stop playing the entry fragger, you stop playing Fortnite and you stop playing mid lane. Maybe you step towards a more cranial role. But is that the right call? Or are we just better off looking for a young player who can also IGL? Well, for that, it's important that we assess cognitive function, since if your brain is literally less effective, it's probably not going to be as good at a task than a more effective one. Being focused and keeping your attention on the game is vital to be an esports pro, so are you better or worse at it as you get older? Well, according to Glisky in 2007, age is a major factor when it comes to attention, in varying ways. As far as sustained attention, older adults show no impairment, meaning staying locked in isn't as much of an issue. Keeping focused on their single task and not getting distracted doesn't get worse as we age.
35 years young for Härkänen!
But what does seem to deteriorate is our divided attention and attention switching, aka processing 2 or more sources of information at a time. This is seen more depending on the complexity of the task. Results suggest that older adults are more affected by the division of attention than young adults, particularly when the attentional demands of the 2 tasks are high. Maybe that's why we see older esports pros in a game like Counter-Strike that's remained consistent in all of its mechanics, than in a game like Valorant, which is constantly new and has so much visual clutter.
Incoming nukes! Nukes dropping down! Wall! Pushing over the rocket with rocket launcher flying over! Insane splash grenade! Fucking laser beam from the sky!
But what they also mention is that these deficits can be improved by practice as well as aerobic exercise, meaning that even if our brains get worse at handling lots of information at once, we can essentially combat this through hard work, as well as involving exercise, which is another reason to take care of your physical health as an esports pro. But something that comes with age is the ability to express our thoughts better through a deeper vocabulary and more interesting ways of speaking. They tell well-structured, elaborate narratives that are judged by others to be more interesting than those told by young. This leads beautifully into another element of being a professional player in any sport, being a teammate. Emotional intelligence is paramount, being able to understand and care for your teammates and build a connection that enables you to play at your best and let your team truly gel together. According to Sharma in 2017, emotional intelligence has a direct link to age, with emotional intelligence provably increasing as age goes up, as well as maturity, which I'm sure we can understand. The patterns demonstrate that emotional intelligence can be considered an ability which can be learned with experience, wisdom, and knowledge. I think it's safe to agree that we would all want an emotionally intelligent individual at the helm of your team instead of a teenager with a lack of practice to be developed emotionally. Emotional intelligence also has its effect on leadership styles. As we grow older, it's seen that we shift away from autocratic leadership towards democratic and laissez-faire leadership styles, which are best for highly skilled and motivated team members, which is exactly what pro-level esports teams are comprised of. So I think it's fair to say that, yes, you will become washed as you get older. Some people manage to fight this off better than others, but the fact remains, in an industry where milliseconds matter, 50 milliseconds a year can be the difference between fragging out and losing your touch. But the other attributes that we gain and develop with those years can position us to be effective in other elements of our game, both in and outside of esports. This would explain why we see so many pros shift towards IGL and coaching positions. I think we all have an innate understanding of why this happens, because we know people older and wiser than us, and we look to them for guidance. But now you know what the science would say. That being, like it or not, the rust will come, and moving to an IGL or coach position isn't a player trying to steal a paycheck, but it's somebody re-evaluating their skills and continuing to further whatever esport that they compete in. Thank you for watching, and shout out to these really nice comments we got on our first video, so thank you for the support.